Spike stood and blinked with a blank expression. He held a book in his hands, and he remained still in the middle of the hallway. "You asked me to do something, Twilight, and He squinted at the tome in his grasp. "Zoology of Zebrahara? Oh, this book is so outdated. They called zebras bad names in it. Why do we even keep this in stock?" "Spike, that's the book Lyra Heartstrings just asked you for a moment ago." "Lyra who?" "Hello." I waved with a smile. "Oh, hi there. Dig the swell hoodie." "You mean to tell me you don't remember her?" Twilight's voice rose in confusion and frustration. "She's been sitting here talking to me for minutes. You've passed by like 3 times. "Yeesh, sorry, Twilight. I didn't know. Besides, aren't we supposed to be closing soon? Isn't it late for visitors?" "Spike, Twilight and I are just having a simple chat, kiddo," I said, waving a reassuring hoof. "Don't let us bother you." "Ugh, whatever." He waddled off with a groan, practically dragging the thick tome after him. "I'm just a magic assistant, not a gatekeeper." As he left, I glanced back at a dumbstruck Twilight and said, "Distance is one thing that causes others to forget about me. And, is there another thing?" I glanced out the nearest window. The sunset's red kiss was all but gone. The blackness of night was falling, and with it would come the pale glow of the moon. "Time," I eventually said, nostrils flaring. "Some matter of minutes, sometimes an hour, not often longer. You won't know that I ever existed. That's what makes explaining all of this kind of tough. Every time, because I hardly get to the point of asking what I really need from you." "Forgive me, but I need an explanation," Twilight exclaimed, her voice as sharp and desperate as her twitching expression. "This is a little unprecedented. Even if it were true, how could any pony survive like this?" "I manage. It hasn't been very easy, but I'm doing quite well for myself." "I still find it pretty hard to believe, Miss Heartstrings. I'm afraid you're going to have to show me a bit more to prove what you're saying." "Your first week in the royal palace as the magical apprentice to Princess Celestia," I began. "Her Majesty showed you a gallery that featured the portraits of many esteemed unicorns from throughout equestrian history. You were so proud of yourself because you could recognize from the painting Star-Swirled Bearded. Then your mentor took you aside and explained something to you. They were all former students that she had once tutored throughout the ages, just like she was starting to tutor you." Twilight's eyes remained fixed on me, soft and vulnerable as I leaned towards her and continued speaking. "That was the first time that you truly understood death. You were a young foal, full of energy and life. You found yourself the inexplicably lucky student to Princess Celestia, and you didn't have the prior concept of the end of things. Staring at those portraits, you played out the history of Equestria in your head, and you realized even the future would have its own history, and you would only be some piece of it, maybe immortalized in a picture at best. And then you cried, and you didn't understand why. Princess Celestia stayed by your side the whole night. She didn't leave you until your tears were dry. She even delayed raising the sun just to make sure that she'd had time to solace you. To this day, not very many ponies know why that one morning was so dark nearly 15 years ago." I smiled and planted a hoof on one of hers, feeling the sudden tremble in her frame and doing my best to drive it away like the wise monarch once had. "You told me before, Twilight, during a very deep conversation that we managed to have a couple weeks ago. The reason you studied so many books, and the reason you prefer reading over seeing the daylight, the reason you can't, for one solitary second of your life, stop processing all the information, is because you want to fill yourself up with as much knowledge as possible. Because history is there for a reason. Countless generations have lived and died before our time to ensure that we have all these data we need to apply to our own existence and make the world a better place. To do anything less than exercise our intelligence is to forget the legacy of the ponies who predate us. Princess Celestia, you told me, is more than a mentor to you. She's the heart of Equestria, and still is the central spark that holds the elements of harmony together. You want what's best for Equestria, and you want what's best for the princess, and in that vein, you've endeavored to become more than a mere portrait on the wall." I smiled. My face reflected a pair of eyes that grew glossier as my words rolled on. "So many times. Your friends asked you why you've never bothered meeting a young stallion to spend some romantic time with. You brush off those good-humored inquisitions, pretending that the whole notion is silly, and deep down you realize you won't afford yourself companionship so long as you have this need to make a difference in the world. But it's more than just a quirk of your personality, isn't it? Someday, Twilight, you plan to write a book, a comprehensive almanac to all the most important and timeless bits of magical knowledge that you in your entire life could ever hope to compile. The title of the book, as you've told me, The Path to Harmony. Every morning that you wake up, you think about it, and you think of Princess Celestia reading it every day after she raises the sun, even long after you may be gone. If there's one thing that you're afraid of, Twilight, as every pony is, it's of being forgotten. When I finished speaking, Twilight was no longer staring at me, but I knew that I still had her ears. A shudder ran through her body. A single tear ran down one cheek. She wiped her face with a hoof, shuddered, and murmured in a voice that was a little too shaky for her own good. How did all this happen to you? I knew that once again I had her as my audience. My heart skipped a beat. But it was approaching night, and I glanced out the window. The moon wasn't out yet. I sighed and said, All I know is that this happened while I was in town to visit the summer sun celebration. Last year. Last year? Twilight sniffled. She blinked wide. You mean the night that Nightmare Moon returned? Yeah. Something happened to you that cursed this curse, I muttered. At least, I'm pretty sure it's a curse. I don't know what else to call it. But how does it work? What are its connections to Princess Luna? I mean, Nightmare Moon? Listen, I've already taken enough time as it is, I said in a low voice. To explain everything is impossible at this point. If I try, you'll stop understanding, even halfway through the whole thing. Then write it down, Twilight exclaimed, her wet eyes darting every which way to find a pen and paper. Put it down in words so that I can read it later, and the pages will appear blank to you as well as to any other pony, I said with a soft and bittersweet smile. Believe me, I've written several words on several surfaces in several spots across Ponyville. No pony can see anything so long as I'm writing or I'm somehow involved. Because of that same factor of distance or time? On the edge of a panting breath, she suddenly brightened. I know. We'll send a letter to Princess Celestia, right now. The power of the green flame could get news of your existence to her in an instant. Surely she could take care of this curse. Spike! I held my hooves up and silenced her. We've already tried that. We have? 3 times, on separate occasions, a few months ago. All that the princess will receive is a puff of green smoke and then some ashes. Nothing you send gets through the teleportation process. Then... Twilight was fumbling for ideas at this point. She was trembling all over. I will always admire her concern and sincerity when it comes to this point of knowing. But I also can't stand to see her so distraught. My only solace is that it never lasts long. And I knew it would only be a matter of time then. Oh, a photograph! She trotted across the library to where a camera rested inside of a cabinet. We can take a snapshot of you and... You already have a photo of me, I said. Getting up, I walked over toward a windowsill and pointed at a wide-framed snapshot featuring 2 colorful ponies in the streets of Canterlot. That is to say, it would have a photo of me only, well, see for yourself. Twilight looked at the photo of her and Moondancer standing and smiling before the camera pony, and she squinted as if truly studying the image for the first time. Funny, there's so much space at the left edge of this photo. Room for a 3rd pony, maybe. Twilight bit her lip. She placed the photo back down, gulped, and looked at me. You could leave town, go to Canterlot, and ask for an audience with Princess Celestia. Her words were already trailing off after seeing the expression on my face. I shook my head slowly and said, The same curse that keeps me out of the minds of ponies keeps me stuck here in town in the limits of Ponyville. I walked back to where my lyre and saddlebag were. I've hypothesized that it's because Nightmare Moon and I were here at the same time when my curse began. Whenever I try to leave Ponyville, I'm overcome with a horrible drop in temperature, like I'm entering some freezing blizzard or something. My teeth chattered slightly at the thought of it as I yanked on my sweater jacket's hoodstrings for emphasis. It's why I've got this scarf here. Sometimes the cold spell creeps into the limits and it becomes almost unbearable. Twilight shuddered and slumped down in the middle of the library. Her voice resembled that of a helpless, whimpering foal. I wish there were a way to help you, Lyra, while I still know that I need to do something. Then do this one thing for me, I said, lifting up the lyre. I took a deep breath and steeled myself. You've done it before, and it's helped me out tremendously. I'm sure you can do it again. Absolutely. Twilight stood back up, her eyes bright. Just tell me what it is. Help me finish my song. The one you played earlier? She gulped. Miss Heartstrings, you're right about one thing. I am doing my best to become a repository for knowledge, but music just isn't my forte. It's not your knowledge that the music should appeal to, I said softly, grinning. It's your heart, Twilight. You know this tune, and you've heard it before, and you don't need to be an expert. I just need to know how you feel it should end. She bit her lip and stepped up closer, sitting down next to me. Can I hear it again? I nodded, gently. I played the tune for her. The tempo was a little bit faster on this playthrough. Night had fallen, and I was suddenly starting to feel a little pressured for time. Soon enough, though, the number was finished, what I up till then had called Lunar Elegy number 7. Suddenly, The Threnody of Night, Twilight murmured. Oh, is that the name of it? Yes, I think so. According to Princess Celestia, it was something that Luna herself wrote just decades before her banishment. Luna went through a period of mournful and artistic expression, at least before her jealousy and envy fused with that bitter taint that had transformed her into Nightmare Moon. Do you know the last few bars of it? She fidgeted. I'm telling you, Lyra, I'm not good at writing down notes. Besides, it would turn up blank if I wrote it down, right? Just sing it, I said. That's what we always did before. It'll work. I'll remember it. I just sing it? Here goes. The sound of the library interior drowned out as an angelic voice navigated a series of invisible chords in the center of that hollowed-out tree. I listened closely, my heart pounded a beat to the melody wafting from Twilight's soul. Sooner than I had expected, the song came to an end. It would have brought a tear to my eye if I wasn't so busy chuckling. Of course. Oh, how bleak. I swear that's how it ends, Twilight said. I can remember it now like it was yesterday. The threnody stops really abruptly. I recall questioning the princess about it. It was the first time I heard Celestia laugh. Luna never knew how to make a graceful exit, she said. She shook her head with a goofy grin. Funny, I forgot about that until just now. It's always funny at first, I muttered, concentrating as I poured a wave of magic through my lyre to repeat the last few chords that Twilight had hummed for me. The melody echoed with haunting resonance throughout the wooden chamber. And now I knew how the threnody ended. Another week, another elegy. It was so simple it hurt. And that's that. Aren't you going to play the whole thing? No, I replied swiftly. Not in here. I quietly slid the lyre back into my saddlebag. It wouldn't be safe. Twilight Sparkle squinted. The threnody, it's magic, isn't it? Most of them are, but only after I've salvaged the melodies I hear in my head and then put them back together with a few instruments. They're just pieces to this grand puzzle I'm struggling every day to figure out, though I'd be lying if I said that I worked on them completely on my lonesome. I really have you to thank for another elegy's completion, Twilight. I smiled. Somehow, you never seem to fail me. If only I could do more than that. Well, I stepped back from my saddlebag and turned toward her. My face avoided her gaze, though. I kind of lied earlier when I said that I needed only one thing from you. As a matter of fact, I want two. Oh, it's... I couldn't look at her straight. Even now I have a hard time believing that I said what I did, that I'd made such a request. All these months had gone by. I told myself that I should just be stronger, and I'd already gotten what I needed from Twilight that night, that which could truly help my quest for understanding. There wasn't really much of a point in asking for anything else, but I guess I was weaker than I thought. And that's the real reason why I'm writing this otherwise inconsequential entry. It's something really weird sounding, and you can say no if you want to, and that would be perfectly fine, and I really couldn't blame you. Lyra, Twilight walked closer to me. What is it? What else do you need?